Blog Talk Radio.
Stevie B's Media Production is a part of the Shellcaster Network.
The proclamation of the gospel of Jesus Christ by members of the Churches of Christ. With your host, Stevie R. Butler. You're listening to What a Word from the Lord radio show.
You are my protector, and you are my provider, and my deliverer. There's no other help I know. You are my protector, and you are my provider, and my deliverer. There's no other help I know. I really love the Lord.
You're listening to What a Word from the Lord radio show.
Good evening, wherever you are in the world listening to this radio broadcast. Stevie B's Media Production presents What a Word from the Lord radio show. I'm your host this evening, Stevie Butler, and this radio show is being broadcast from Stevie B's Media Production at the Carolina studio in the great state of North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just a little grateful for the privilege to bring you a program where we as Christians and members of the Churches of Christ can share our faith and preach and teach the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ on a weekly basis. If you'd like to contact us while we're on the air this evening, you can give me a call to the live show at 713-955-0508, or you can go to the Blog Talk Radio website and listen to the live show there. And now there are over 1,800 shows on that website at this hour, and my show is consistently on pages 1 through 4 of that website. And there are over 1,800 shows. Now think about that. There are 20 shows per page. And this show is on page 3 of that website. Isn't that a blessing? If you have any questions or comments for any of my co-hosts or any of the special guests that are on this show tonight, you can send your emails to my new email address, butlersteve1009@yahoo.com, or you can call Stevie B's Media Production at the Carolina studio at 910-491-6405. Now, again, this program is brought to you by members of the Churches of Christ. And if you need any assistance in locating the congregation in your area, please feel free to contact us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special edition tonight. This show airs every fourth Tuesday of the month. It's the Kelli Fletcher Show. Kelli, we're going to give it to you and take it away.
This is Terry Jackson, and you're listening to A Talk with My Sisters on What a Word from the Lord radio show. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to my first show of 2023. My name is Kelli, and I am your co-host for this evening. You are listening to the Kelli Fletcher Show on Stevie B Media Productions, What a Word from the Lord radio show. Should you have any questions for our guests during tonight's show, please IM me on Facebook or send an email to butlersteve1009@yahoo.com. So in 2022, we had discussions that impacted everyone, but more specifically, the discussions were more focused on women. So my goal for 2023 is to hopefully have a few more discussions with men and for men, but not to leave the women out. So having said that, our first topic for 2023 and for tonight's show is on men's health. Sometimes men are more reluctant to go to the doctor, and they may need to be encouraged by their loved ones to get checked out. So my special guests for tonight are here to discuss with us the importance of men's health. I'd like to welcome my first guest. It's his first time here. His name is Siaka, and I hope I pronounced the last name correctly. And I'd like to welcome back Candace Shelton. So welcome to both of you. And before we get started, Siaka, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then Candace will go to you.
My name is Siaka Kia. Reside in Indianapolis currently, but originally from Africa, Liberia to be specific. I'm a health and wellness coordinator at the Indianapolis Urban League, and my job is really just to advocate for disparities amongst African Americans and minorities.
Okay, thank you, and welcome. Candace?
Hi, this is Candace Shelton, and yes, I am a registered nurse, a health coach, and also a registered certified case manager. And in working in the healthcare field for the past 40 years, I just know that I have seen so many changes that affect our African American men, and I'm passionate about men getting checked, and look forward to speaking about this subject. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you both again so much for being here tonight. And so to get this dialogue started, and again, before I forget, there's no response or response limit or time limit on your response. So we could just have the dialogue and then move forward with the next question when needed. So to start out with this dialogue, Siaka, can you explain to us what is men's health and why is it so important for men to be aware of their health?
Men's health is just typically the physical state or the mental state of the social well-being of a man. Typically, it's important because, like, you ever heard the saying, like, health is wealth?
Yes.
Without your health, it's like physically you can't do a lot of things, but the most important thing is also, like, mentally you also can't do a lot of things. And when you are in a certain space where you're focused on how you're feeling or what's wrong with you, you're often unable to do, like, your day-to-day things within life. And so knowing what's wrong with you kind of like advocates for a way for you to be able to at least know how to function in society properly and also how to just stay at your optimal level. That's why I believe it's important.
Okay, thank you. Candace, did you want to add to that?
Just that I agree with him. It's our physical and mental well-being, as he says, and also to promote healthy lifestyles so that men can set the example, be the mentor and role model in their families, so in their family units, and it makes a huge difference of how people, children especially, watch how men respond and the actions they take. So it's about the wellness and being well and staying well.
Okay. So, Siaka, generally, do men lead less healthy lifestyles than women? And if so, how, or if yes, how so?
I would say yes, just because of the fact that men just tend to, like, do more, they tend to take more risk when it comes to certain things. Women are more so, I feel like a woman would think more so about what she's doing, and she's just a little bit more cautious than a man would. So being on that kind of spectrum of where you're more likely to do riskier things, you're more likely to run into health conditions or problems within your life. So that's why.
Okay. Candace, so what health risk? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
And I was going to say, men on the whole also will not tap into the resources that are available, even after informed or being shown that it makes a difference for, as actually what he was addressing, early detection or being aware of things. So a lot of times the resources are there, but maybe not tapping into them. So I think that's how our men often put themselves at risk because, you know, if a man starts complaining of certain symptoms, then one of his loved ones say, hey, have you gotten that checked out? Or, you know, are you going to get it checked out? It can be ignored for too long so that then there are negative repercussions.
Okay, thank you. So what health risks are there health risks that impact men only?
Yeah.
Okay. And what are they? Go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Go right ahead.
I would say, yeah. One of them I've noticed has been prostate cancer, and specifically for men also has been like testosterone levels. Is something that they need to watch out for. Like, for example, prostate cancer is one of the leading causes of death in men in America. And testosterone levels is also very serious in the sense of where it can cause like men to like have fatigue, you know. It can also cause obesity in men, which can also like cause other health conditions.
And I well, of course, me being a female, you know, I hadn't heard of that before. So can you maybe talk a little more about testosterone levels? I mean, what does that mean? Or what would that look like?
It's just like certain people might have a certain medical condition where they don't produce as much testosterone that they usually should be producing. So when it gets to that point where they're not able to produce that, or they're not getting medications that aid in producing that level, it can lead to like health conditions, like where you would feel fatigue, and you can also gain weight, and gain weight leads to can also lead to other conditions such as like cardiovascular disease and all these other things like that comes from being obese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So go ahead, I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, that's it.
So okay, all right. So is it true then, and safe to say, that men have more heart attacks than women, Candace?
Yes, and again, going back to what he just commented about, since testosterone it's just like the hormone for females. We have estrogen and progesterone, so men have testosterone. So one of the things it puts men at risk, as he was saying, was for heart attacks, heart disease, period. And usually men between ages of 18 to about 49, if they have any incident in that age group, the likeliness of having a longevity of life is shortened by that because it has come so early. So in the healthcare field and working in it, some of the things we see in our men that age group now, we didn't used to see in men until they were like 80 or 90. So that's been a huge change in the occurrence for our men specifically. And so, yes, it puts them at risk for those things too. Diabetes, as he said, being obese is one of the factors that can contribute to what happens with the rest of our body, because our body wants to be in balance. So if one hormone is out of balance, it can contribute to the other hormones being out of balance as well. And we see diabetes and strokes happen, and for men too. In our culture, there's like 50% greater men than women that have lung cancer. So as he was saying, prostate cancer, lung cancer, some of those things are the other facts that we see occurring in our men.
So to go back to that, excuse me, when you mentioned, ages 18 to 49, where in prior years you didn't see it until, say, the age of 80, if I understood that correctly. Why is that? Why is there such why is it so early now?
And I think it's because of the lifestyles that are occurring. And when we look at lifestyle, we're talking about, of course, what we eat, how we move or we don't move, and then, again, the stress that's in our society. Our men overall often have to face, and he kind of related to it a while ago. We're in a society where, quote, years ago, men and masculinity used to be equated with whether you are working full-time, whether you take care of a family, all of those kinds of parameters. And now that has been challenged, but it's like it's an increased challenge for our men, I think. And if you live under stress all the time, so anytime our men leave the house, are they going to come back? And that is a reality, which is sad because of the amount of violence that we have seen in our society. And if you live under constant stress, that is another driving factor for what happens as an outcome for men and women. But, the firearms and just the violence and everything that's going on and stress can lead to, again, the disproportionate balance in our bodies. And it does make a difference as to what will happen if this is ongoing and unchecked, like hypertension or high blood pressure. If a young man has been told that at the age of 16 to 17, he doesn't get it checked until he's in his 20s or 30s, that means his body has been under some damage has been going on unchecked. So, again, if we have a history of those kinds of things, being aware of it, that is information that we talk about similar to women. If that information is never passed down, then people don't think they need to even get that kind of thing checked out.
Okay. Siaka, did you have anything to add to what Candace was just saying?
Oh man, she said it perfectly. I agree with everything she said. So no, not really. She said it perfectly.
Okay. All right. So, are there health risks? And I think you may have touched on some, but Siaka, are there health risks more common among one group of men in comparison to other groups of men?
Yes, I would say something I've noticed, especially it's been like in the African American community. A lot of us tend to, like she mentioned, have resources around us, but refuse to go due to the stigma of, oh man, I'm like this macho man. And I've noticed, like, from people around me, diabetes has been one of them that has been more common, I've noticed, in the African American community, just based on my environment, a community that I grew up within.
Okay. And Candace, did you have anything to add?
Yes, in speaking about, so we're talking about resources. So that's one of the reasons that President Obama set into being the Affordable Care Act. One of the things that often happens and is associated with the lack of care is that in the past, if you didn't have insurance coverage and you couldn't afford it, of course, then you weren't able to have the resources to have your health even screened or looked at. So since the Affordable Care Act has been in place, we've tried to educate everybody about taking advantage of that. You know, and I often will tell people, I said, the only thing you have to do is register for that. And they say, I might not be able to afford it. Some people's premiums are as low as $1 or $3 a month. And that gives you access to a primary care physician. So you can have those preventative health care screens done. So you can, it's kind of like having a net to be able to catch if you have high blood pressure, if maybe, as he says, you're moving toward diabetes, if you have high cholesterol, which is a contributing factor to cardiovascular disease, and just being aware that those resources are there, and then encouraging all people, you know, to sign up for affordable care, register for it, so you can have access to a primary care physician.
Okay. So, and that kind of segues into my next question. So there are annual tests, preventative tests that men can get or should have, I'm guessing. And if so, what are those tests? And Siaka, I'll go to you, and then Candace, if you have anything to add.
I would say getting your prostate checked, going to just even having your blood tested to check your different organs, such as your kidneys, to see their function, like a renal test, to see if your kidneys working properly. Because even when your kidneys stop working properly, that could lead to things such as hypertension, and which can, like she mentioned, can damage your heart and other types of organs within your body. Even getting your liver tested are different things that you could test, that you could go just by just doing a blood test to be able to figure those things out.
Okay. So how early should parents start taking their sons to the doctor to have some of these tests done, or just to, for their physicals. What age do you think parents should start taking their sons? Candace?
Yeah, so what happens is most parents will take their children, of course, from the time they're babies until probably about 9 or 10 years of age, and then that may start dropping off. But children need annual physicals, as it says, every year. And I have seen children as young as 12 with high blood pressure. It's not as, predominant, but you can catch what's going on if you have just a physical every year. Many young people who are involved in sports, of course, they have to have them because they can't play sports without them. And that's when they're able to catch that maybe this child has high blood pressure or something else may be causing it. But all children need annual physicals every year. Also, one of the things for males is just as you teach young ladies when they hit puberty to do breast exams, males need to do testicular exams on themselves every month so they can detect if anything is happening there, any growth abnormalities, because if they don't, by the time they can discover it, if they do have any kind of cancer, then it's usually well advanced. So actually they need to be taught that, just like young ladies are taught to do breast exams. They need to do a monthly testicular exam.
So say, for example, how women will do a breast exam, or, they just kind of check, say maybe in the shower. Is that something that men can do as far as the testicular exams? Can they kind of check themselves, or are you saying they have to go into a physician's office to have that done?
No, they can do just like women do. They can, when they're in the shower, to just make sure they're feeling for anything that wasn't there before. That,
okay.
Any kind of knots or lumps or anything like that, so that they become aware, this is new. And if they do it on a regular basis, then they will be able to tell the difference as if something does occur.
Okay, and then right before we take a quick break, I do have one more question. Siaka, how can we raise more awareness about preventative screenings and health care for young men, boys of all ages?
I think it just starts from educating the parents and like community leaders that influence these like young men, and by having those people have those conversations, and because the best form of communication is word of mouth, having those talks from people that actually that they look up to, then they're able to understand like how important like taking care of your health is, in a sense. So I think it just starts at home before anything. We as a community need to be comfortable with sitting our loved ones down and having that conversation.
And I know sometimes parents, the mom or dad, they're maybe are not comfortable with doing that. Is there, say, maybe another healthy resource where they can get that education?
You said, you saying what's another healthy resource that could get that kind of education?
Yeah, and I was saying healthy resource as in not just going out and, and getting it from just anybody they hang around, but maybe, just maybe a resource where they can get good information and educate themselves.
I would say, there's a lot of different programs out there that you can even look up that offer that kind of information. But it also starts with just simply because I believe the best kind of experience is like a hands-on kind of experience. So even taking your loved one to the doctor and having that health professional explain to them the importance of them coming in to have screenings and things of that nature, that can encourage that kind of motivation to do those things. For me to say a specific form of resource, it's like a vast majority. For example, the nonprofit organization I work for, we have events where we have free screenings in which people can come in and learn, and not only learn but also receive screenings of a sort from professional healthcare professionals. So it just starts from doing research, and then also looking within your community to see what kind of opportunities are there, because it starts right. with you taking the initiative to want to look, then you can find the different resources.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
And Candace?
In addition to what he said, the library is also always a good resource because they have age-appropriate books for children and for parents. If a parent is not comfortable discussing, our bodies, the changes, behavior, because parents need to be empowered to know they need to talk to their children so children do not get taken advantage of by either other children or anyone else. So if a parent is not comfortable, they can always also tap into the resources from the library, and they can always ask the librarian what they're looking for so they direct them to the age-appropriate information. Because children need information ongoing, as he was saying. First it should start with the family, but as they get a little older, you need to always educate your children to more information so that they're aware of their own body, their surroundings, and what, of course, in the schools for the longest, it was good touch, bad touch was taught. And you want children to be aware so they can know, and for girls and boys as they are progressing through puberty to know what to expect. And you don't want them to be taken off guard because that's, what happens sometimes in our society. Information comes late. By that time, the child has already been maybe possibly molested or taken advantage of in some way. So you do want to have those talks early and ongoing. It shouldn't be just a one-time talk. It should be continuously talking with them in a manner where they can understand at their age what is going on. So.
Well, thank you both so much for the information you provided so far. What we're going to do is take a quick break, and then we'll come back and just finish up the last half. So, Stevie B, I'll turn it over to you for now for the break, and we'll come back and finish our talk.
I know. Blessing and comfort are a part of my daily life. Because my hand is in yours. never, never lie. That's why I'm glad. I said I'm glad I know you, Lord. I'm so glad you know me, Lord. I'm glad you know me, Lord. We want to give you the praise. Heavenly Father,
Archer, and you're listening to A Talk with My Sister on What a Word from the Lord radio show. Peace and love.
So welcome back. We are talking about importance of men's health, and we have some good information that Siaka and Candace shared with us in the first half of the show. So we have just one more segment to do. And this discussion is surrounding mental health, men and mental health. And so it's a multi-question that I have surrounding mental health. Siaka, how prevalent is mental health disorder among men than women? And what are some common mental health disorders that affect men?
I would say, based within my personal experience, I would say it's not too prevalent amongst men in comparison to females. For me to know the specific ones, I would say I'm not able to list those just because of how it varies within different individuals.
Okay, that's fair. So even I'm kind of guessing that men are, when it comes to mental health, I'm guessing that just like with their physical health, they may be more reluctant to seek help or treatment when it comes to mental health. Is that an accurate statement?
Oh, yes, that's accurate.
Okay, and why would that be?
It's based off the environment and how they're raised. Some men grow up in environments where they tend to be the man of the house. Some men grow up in environments where they don't have fathers, or neighborhoods where if you have to be tough. You can't be crying in front of your fellow men, and it's just the way certain men are raised, and how society has made men to feel as though like have created this image of this is what a man should be, that causes these men to be more or less reluctant to be able to go and seek that kind of help,
Yeah. Candace, did you have anything to add?
Yes, just that, just piggybacking off what Siaka said, that our men are often told to be strong, and even in movies past and media kinds of things, the comedians make fun of it now, but men were often told as boys, they couldn't cry, even when they were hurt.
Yeah.
So to be strong, but at the same time to be stoic. So what I've run across just in practice is a lot of my men are very depressed sometimes, and they don't feel like he just said, who do they turn to? And often depression can lead, especially extended depression and untreated depression can lead to that sadness, hopelessness, the feeling of having like no one to help them pull it together. And we have seen an increase of suicide, when there has not been that mental help or assistance being given to men. And our men contend with also, I was just reading from the pediatric area too, that so many boys are placed into like special education classes early, so that instead of them being worked with and talked to, they're kind of labeled already. So if he says, like he said, a young man is labeled, then that's what he grows up with, always being bullied or taunted. Then that young man can become a very angry young man, or like he says, they become very tough on the outside when that's not what, they really want to do. So, as I see mental health often during the pandemic especially, we saw a huge rise in people who had been under treatment all of a sudden not being in treatment. And many of them became homeless, and a lot of things happened to a lot of them that had not been where they were being treated. All of a sudden they weren't being treated, and ended up homeless or, having their situation be very disrupted. So, so that's, in practice, that's what, it's seen as well.
So, based off of what you guys said, how can, if anything, how can we as women, mothers, sisters, spouses, how can we help our men when we see that they're depressed, or we see that our young boys are maybe dealing with sadness? What is it that we can do to help them through that? Siaka, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, yes. I would say create more of a safe space and be able to talk to them, be able to not judge them while they also express themselves. Because one of the things story I heard from because I actually asked a woman this question. I was like, how would you feel if you was to see like your husband cry? She responded to me. She was like, well, I've never seen my father cry, so I wouldn't know how to feel if I was to see my my husband cry, So it's like for, I would say, for mothers and daughters, is to step out that stigma of a man crying being a weakness, or of a man coming to hit you to express certain things to you as a weakness. Once you can get to a point where that thought is not there, it will get to, you don't have to ask your man to come to you to express what's going on with him. He would naturally feel comfortable enough to be able to share with you, just as you would want to share, just as you share your what you're going through with him, So it's just about practicing that first.
And I'm sorry, I missed that last part. You said it's just about what now?
It's about practicing creating a safe space. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was good. That's good information. So, especially, I wanted to ask that question, especially if we have women in our listening audience, that are experiencing this, or their sons or their husbands are experiencing this. So that is good information for them to know. So when men are dealing with mental health disorder, and I'll just say depression, they're having that sadness and the feeling of hopelessness. How do they typically cope in those instances? Candace?
Yes, so many men become very stoic and they say nothing. I work with anti-domestic violence too. Other men become angry and maybe begin to react to those around them very negatively. Some people, of course, turn to substances, whether that's alcohol or other street drugs. And then you have people who begin to go into isolation, so they don't want to be around anyone else. And so you may see those kinds of things happening, whereas they were actively doing things, working, being engaged. Then all of a sudden you see this shift where they're isolating from their family, they're not really engaging. Sometimes they won't even, not that everybody eats dinner together anymore, but that person may not show up to the dinner table. I'll eat later. So you see them begin to withdraw. And it's what I've witnessed and understand.
Okay, thank you. And Siaka, did you have any thing to add to that?
Oh, no, I completely agree with her. From what I've observed amongst, within my communities, usually, like she said, they would turn to substances like alcohol or street drugs to kind of, relieve that, to escape, I would say, from what they're going through. And they never really get to a point where they're really able to deal with that. And that can cause, just different problems with a lot of people that they come across and interact with, even at their even with their own spouse and people that surround them. Yeah, but she's right about that. Yeah.
Okay. So before we go, what I would like to find out is, and I'll start with you, Siaka, if you have any last minute advice for our listeners about the importance of men's health. And also, I know you mentioned that where you work at, there are events. So is there, can you maybe include a website as well where our listeners might be able to go?
Oh, yes. You can visit, you can go into Google search and you can type in the Indianapolis Urban League. You would see our website pop up immediately. And when you click on there, we have tabs for different portions, like whether it's rental assistant or it's our health department or just different programs that we offer that you can, find resources to. In regards to like my last statement, is that what you said I could say?
Oh yeah. Any last minute advice? Yes.
I would say everything when it comes to health and it comes to just being a human being, everything starts with taking the time to have a conversation to understand. Because once you take the time to understand, is when you get to a point where you're able to not, even if you haven't experienced that particular thing, you're able to get a glimpse of that experience. You're able to understand it better. So when it comes to mental health, it comes to trying to advocate for better health. It just takes having a conversation with people around you, for real. And then also just having an open mind that there's so much more to learn, out there. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And Candace, same question to you.
Yes, and I'll piggyback on what he said. The other site to go to is 100 Black Men. They have that statement, these are developmental programs for youth in particular. And they have the statements, what they see is what they will be. And then positivity overcomes adversity. So as he says, being willing to open enough to go learn. It does take time to be educated, to understand that maybe the way as an adult you were raised, maybe there were things you didn't like about it. And if you don't know, then you can't break that cycle of not knowing if you don't understand to go learn and do something different. And it's about everything, as I said, from our prevention by staying on top of our health. And if people do not have a primary care physician, if you've not registered for, under the Affordable Care Act and you don't have insurance, please apply for it. And then tap into being assigned with a primary care physician, making sure you actually go to one and get that annual exam, and then taking care of our bodies overall. If we're not feeling well, to investigate, ask questions, and never be afraid to seek help. And we also see mental illness, if I can make one last statement about it. We are seeing it earlier and earlier, too. But often we will see the disorders show up about the time kids would just beginning to be becoming adults. So a lot of times 18 to 19, you begin to see some of those other mental health illnesses that occur, also bipolarism and some of the other depressions. So just being aware that even though our young people turn 18, it doesn't mean they're ready to go out here and be on their own. Sometimes they may be struggling and not being aware of it. And so as a parent, to be aware that these kinds of things may show up in that age group. And if you see it, not to ignore it, but to encourage your young person to go to have it checked out and maybe even take them, be the available person to take them so that they can investigate what's going on. So thank you.
And thank you so much for mentioning that, because again, I know that sometimes once a child turns 18, sometimes the parent may be ready to release them, but the child is not mentally ready. So I appreciate you bringing that point out. I do want to thank both you and Siaka for being on tonight and for the conversation this evening. To our men, your health is so important to us, but we want it to be just as important to you. So you have people in your life who love you, and they need you to be there. So we ask that you please, please, please take your health seriously and get your checkup. Some of the ones that were listed that Siaka mentioned was like renal tests and prostate tests, the liver test, and like Candace mentioned, doing the testicular exams. Just like women have to do breast exams, you need to do your own exams as well. So thank you both again so much for the information. Prayerfully, someone in our listening audience tonight benefited from this conversation, and will take their health a little more seriously. I'd also like to thank Brother Stevie B for providing this platform so that we are able to share this information to all those in our listening area. And I want to thank our listeners for being here, for tuning in. We look forward to having you in our audience in February. Again, as we stated earlier, should you have any questions or comments for our guest tonight, please feel free to send me an IM on Facebook, or you can send an email to butlersteve1009@yahoo.com, and we will get your questions and or comments over to Candace and Siaka. So thank you, everyone, so much for listening, and I will now turn it over to Brother Stevie. Have a good evening.
When God says no, and we won't listen to the end, just remember, don't forget, Father knows what's best. When I lay awake at night, with tears streaming from my eyes, I remember, gotta know what's best. Yeah, my God, He knows what's best. Late in the midnight hour, I was crying and all alone, waiting for an answer, and all my hope gone. Even called on my best friend, and she could not be found. Lord, you said you'll never leave me nor forsake me. Lord, where are you now? So I went to church the next Sunday morning, looking for my breakthrough. I knew a change would come if I just hold on, 'cause God's word is true. But then the preacher said something, and it took me by surprise. Sometimes God says no, but just like Job, you gotta trust him, my child. When God says no, but when the preacher said it, I didn't quite understand it. He said, don't forget, just trust your Father, 'cause He knows what's best. When I lay awake in the middle of the night, with tears streaming from my eyes, I remember, Father knows, no matter what you're going through, 'cause He knows, Father knows. And I started to feel a little better, 'cause He started talking about my Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and how He prayed to the Father, let this cup pass from me. Then He did just like me, y'all. Said He went to His best friend, and His friends let Him down.
you forsaken me? Where are you now? You see, sometimes God is moving and we don't understand. See, Jesus paid the cost when we were lost, and it was all a part of God's master plan. So when you're waiting for that answer and God says no to you, just go ahead and shout, and have no doubt that the Father knows more than you when God says no. No, 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 no. See, it's not in man that walketh to direct his own steps. That's why I'm trusting in your Father. So when I prayed for that job and I never get the call, and you prayed for that sick loved one and they've gone on to that eternal home. And when you cried and you prayed and you cried and you feel there's nothing left, just put it in the hands of the Father. And remember, no matter what it is or what it looks like,